Central. Victory News. Facts, faith, freedom.
Hello, welcome to Victory News on this Memorial Day, May the 26th. It's Monday. I'm Greg Stevens along with Fiora Hernandez and Tim Fox. Mike Garofalo is off today. Here are a few of the stories that we're watching for you right now. A new Ohio law will ban certain foreign non-citizens from and countries from buying land. Is that constitutional? We're going to ask constitutional attorney KrisAnne Hall all about it. And one Christian man is asking the Trump administration for help after he allegedly was fired for refusing to use non-biological pronouns. We'll talk with Regent University Dean and former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann about this and more. But first, let's go to Tim Fox. He has our headlines. Tim.
Thank you, Greg. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. President Donald Trump invited the nation Friday to come to Washington, D.C. for a military parade honoring the U.S. Army's 250th birthday, June 14th, which is Flag Day and Mr. Trump's 79th birthday. This event includes historical U.S. Army personnel reenactors, period-accurate equipment, vehicles, impressive flyovers, and military bands, according to America 250, which is the organizer. Fort Cavazos, Texas, began loading Abrams tanks on trains Wednesday, headed to Washington, D.C. to participate in that celebration. The parade route will follow Constitution Avenue near the National Mall. Some 7,500 troops, 28 M1 Abrams tanks, 28 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, helicopters, vintage warplanes, including a World War II era B-17 bomber, and much more on site for the 2-hour event. Trump said the military sacrifice was worthy of celebration, saying, "For 2.5 centuries, our brave soldiers have fought, bled, and died to keep us free. Now we will honor them with a wonderful parade, one that's worthy of their service and sacrifice." President Donald Trump stood front and center on Saturday at West Point, telling the graduating class at the prestigious military academy that the days of social projects and political causes are done in the U.S. military.
We're getting rid of the distractions, and we're focusing our military on its core mission: crushing America's adversaries, killing America's enemies, and defending our great American flag like it has never been defended before.
The president said there is no place he'd rather be than at the commencement ceremony with the cadets, and reminded them of their focus.
The job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. The military's job is to dominate any foe and annihilate any threat to America, anywhere, anytime, and any place.
During his speech, Trump also accused Russia of stealing our hypersonic rockets during the Obama administration. Fior.
Tim, President Donald Trump announced a deal between U.S. Steel and Japan's Nippon Steel Friday, keeping U.S. Steel American-owned and operated, saying, "I'm proud to announce that after much consideration and negotiation, U.S. Steel will remain in America and keep its headquarters in the great city of Pittsburgh." Trump indicated Nippon Steel would invest in its U.S. counterpart rather than purchase the company as originally discussed last year. The deal includes a $14 billion financial injection by the Japanese company and is slated to create 70,000 jobs in the U.S. over the next 14 months. The president highlighted that the partnership would ensure that steel would be once again made in America. Nippon Steel officials called the deal, quote, "a game changer for U.S. Steel and all of its stakeholders, including the American steel industry and the broader American manufacturing base." Trump plans to visit Pittsburgh Friday to celebrate the deal. A Kentucky Republican is on the fence with Trump's budget bill, saying it's not conservative. Senator Rand Paul said he may support President Trump's sweeping new bill, nicknamed the Big Beautiful Bill, only if it does not include raising the debt ceiling. While Paul supports aspects of the bill, like making the 2017 tax cuts permanent and implementing spending reductions, he criticized the inclusion of a $5 trillion debt ceiling increase, saying it contradicts conservative fiscal principles.
Would be persuaded to support even an imperfect bill, but I'm not voting to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion because that's not fiscally responsible and that's not conservative.
Paul argued the bill would worsen the national debt and called for more serious spending cuts. He proposed removing the debt ceiling provision from the bill, suggesting instead that Congress vote on it every 3 months to enforce accountability on spending. The House passed the bill last week, 215 to 214. Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson urged the Senate to pass it quickly. Senate leaders are aiming for a July 4th vote. Southern Poverty Law Center labeled Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA a hate group Thursday, placing the conservative youth organization alongside others like the Ku Klux Klan. The Daily Signal reported Turning Point is on the organization's so-called hate map for the first time and accused it of propping up white Christian nationalism. Reportedly, the so-called hate map is the same map that was used by a terrorist in 2012 to target the Family Research Council in an attempted mass shooting. SPLC denounced the attack but left FRC on the map. SPLC has faced multiple defamation lawsuits due to its, quote, hate group claims against groups like the conservative law firm Alliance Defending Freedom. SPLC classified ADF as an anti-LGBTQ hate group. SPLC also labeled Gays Against Groomers the same way. Gays Against Groomers is a group of gay, lesbian, and bisexual individuals who organize against the sexualization of children. Greg?
Wow. A popular finance expert calls out Congress for not minding America's savings. Fox News reports Dave Ramsey strongly criticized Washington lawmakers for failing to support small businesses and protect Americans' finances. Speaking at the Intra-Leadership Summit in Denver earlier this month, he urged Congress to, quote, do its job by passing legislation that allows people to keep more of their earnings.
When you let the people of the land who make the money keep the money, good things happen.
Ramsey emphasized that small business owners are burdened by constant government interference and uncertainty, especially regarding taxes and tariffs. He argued that businesses can adapt to any policy so long as it's predictable. He calls on Congress to provide stability and clarity to help businesses hire, grow, and drive our economy. Supporters say it's a matter of national security, but others argue it's discrimination. The Ohio Property Protection Act at the Ohio State House would ban anyone who's not a United States citizen and from a country that is a foreign adversary from buying land within 25 miles of, quote, protected property.
I think a bill that would be strategically crafted might be good, but it has to be written, I think, very, very carefully.
Republican Governor Mike DeWine is supportive of the measure, and more than half of Ohio House members have signed on to this bill. Under Ohio law, the list of land that would fall under protected property is long, but includes any railroad property, a dam operated by state or federal government, trucking terminals, airports, military bases, and farmland. Currently, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, and Syria are on the list. But under the bill, Ohio Secretary of State would have to update the list every 6 months. Joining us now is constitutional attorney and Victory News contributor KrisAnne Hall. KrisAnne, welcome to Victory News. I want to get your reaction to the Ohio Property Protection Act. What do you think?
Well, the Ohio Property Protection Act sounds like a great idea. And protecting our land from foreign governments that don't have our best interests at heart is a really great thing. But here's the problem. The bill lets the federal government decide who's a threat without any legislation or due process. And that means somebody's property rights could be taken away just because an unelected agency updated a list. We should protect Ohio and we should protect American land, but not by handing over unchecked power to the federal government that could be used against people. Everyday people. And that's something that should be left in the hands of the state, not the federal government.
Oh, that's a good point. Now, President Trump accused Vladimir Putin of killing a lot of people in an attack he launched against Ukraine Sunday afternoon, the largest aerial assault of the war with 298 drones and 69 missiles. That was what was launched. Here it is.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay?
Ukraine's President Zelensky stated the silence of America, the silence of others in the world only encourages Putin. KrisAnne, does Putin ever, do you think he really wants peace with Ukraine, and does the silence hurt?
Well, I think that history tells us that the Putin administration wants to have peace with Ukraine on Russian terms. Again, I just have to say all of this could have been avoided if people had honored the actual treaty that existed in the beginning. This is not a defense of Putin, mind you, but it is a very, very complex situation. And the president is very right to be upset by this, especially if this is contrary to things that he and Putin have discussed. It has to be very, very frustrating for the president who's trying to make a difference in this.
He is trying to make a difference without involving us sending troops in as well. All right, a powerful recruitment ad for a U.S. military featuring Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and President Trump. It was aired at the Coca-Cola 600 NASCAR race. Here's part of the clip.
No more distractions. No more electric tanks. No more gender confusion. No more climate change worship. We are laser focused on our mission of warfighting.
We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into. It's called peace through strength.
KrisAnne, first of all, thank you for your service on this Memorial Day. Are the President and the Secretary of Defense turning our military around after its 4-year social experiment under the Biden administration?
Well, as a veteran, I can honestly say this is a refreshing change. For the last few years, recruitment ads have looked more like therapy sessions than calls to serve. But this ad, it's focused, it's strong. It reminds America of what the military is actually for, defense, not social experiments. To be honest, if you want a job that prioritizes feelings over the defense of America, go be a kindergarten teacher, not a soldier. We need warriors, not wokeness, and it looks like this is the kind of ad that we need to see and the focus that our military needs to have.
Let me ask you about the former FBI Director, James Comey. He's fighting back after being called out for his 8647 social media post. Here he is on MSNBC.
Let's say you work in the FBI. You know that one of the two political parties is, let me put it nicely, white supremacist adjacent at a minimum. And so why would you want to throw your career on that side of the line?
So what does Comey hope by calling Trump's administration white supremacist?
You know, James Comey's statements are not just reckless, they're actually dangerous. When you call an entire political party white supremacist and openly suggest the assassination of of President Trump, that's not free speech. That's incitement. This man has shown once again that he was never fit to hold the office that he did. And his blatant bias and abuse of authority was a threat to American liberty then, and it is now.
All right.
Congress had the time to impeach him and stop him from holding office again, and they failed. And now we're watching the consequences.
And we see it every day now. KrisAnne, thank you so much. Bring you back in just a moment. Fior?
Greg, federal prosecutors indicted an illegal immigrant last week for voting in the 2024 elections and stealing $440,000 in welfare. Court documents show Colombian national 59-year-old Lina Maria Orobio Hernandez stole someone's identity and lived under the false identity for more than 20 years, during which she obtained 9 state identifications. According to the Justice Department, one was even Real ID compliant. Orobio Hernandez allegedly collected nearly $260,000 in federal housing benefits, $110,000 in Social Security disability, and $43,000 in food stamps. With the stolen identity, she's believed to have voted in 2024. She was caught after trying to apply for a passport under the stolen identity. Authorities say she was using the identity of a Puerto Rican citizen, which is common for illegal immigrants. Orobio Hernandez faces various counts of theft of government money, a count of fraudulent voter registration, and a count of fraudulent voting. A federal judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration from revoking Harvard University certification to enroll foreign students on Friday.
This is a judicial coup by communist Marxist judges against the laws, Constitution, and democracy of the United States.
The Trump administration argues it's cracking down on students who have threatened the foreign policy of the country or shown support for Hamas, Marxist, or communist ideology. Last Thursday, the Department of Homeland Security revoked Harvard University's certification to enroll foreign students, and in a matter of hours, a Boston-based U.S. District Judge Allison Burroughs halted the revocation.
That we have to let communists from foreign nations into our country? to poison our campuses with Marxist ideas, anti-Semitic ideas, anti-American ideas, Jew hatred. That's a constitutional right now?
Right.
This is madness.
The Associated Press reports Secretary Noem said Harvard can regain its ability to host foreign students if it produces records of foreign students, including audio or video footage of their participation in protests on campus. Tim?
Fiora, a conservative Christian event in Seattle over the weekend landed nearly 24 left-wing protesters in handcuffs. The Seattle Times reports the May Day USA event was at Cal Anderson Park in Capitol Hill, its fourth of 5 stops on a national tour promoting the Don't Mess With Our Kids campaign, standing against the indoctrination of children with alternative sexual lifestyles and gender ideology. A pro-LGBT group gathered in protest at about 1 p.m. and things got violent.
We got arrests happening right now, Antifa militants. Multiple people being arrested right now. Get out of here.
Now, agitators and some media reports are pushing the narrative that the Christian group held the event at the widely known LGBTQ-friendly neighborhood to spread hate. Now, organizers of the event, though, say this.
There's one guy, he's kicking off every water. We've not shown any violence, even with everything they've been doing, kicking, pushing people. I just saw a guy push a girl. We're just going to love them. According to police, 23 people were arrested. Greg?
All right, a Wisconsin Christian is asking the Trump administration to intervene after he allegedly was fired for refusing to use preferred pronouns.
That life that I had built there for the last 5 years just gone. I was asked to choose, between my livelihood and my love for God, my beliefs.
That's Spencer Wimmer. He filed a religious discrimination complaint through the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty to U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Wisconsin Liberty for Law and Liberty is suing Generac for violating Title VII protections.
Gender identity. This does not supersede or eliminate Title VII protections against religious discrimination and the fact that religious discrimination is illegal.
Wimmer told Fox News Digital after 5 years with Generac Power Equipment Company, Human Resources challenged him, saying he's not using transgender pronouns on religious grounds. Did not make any sense. But there's a victory for an Iowa resident after reaching a settlement with his former employer, who had reportedly fired him for standing strong in his faith. Cosby Corey Cunningham claimed Eaton Corporation started increasingly promoting DEI and LGBTQ in the workplace. He was allegedly required to attend numerous training sessions and singled out for refusing to use woke pronouns. He was forced to attend a gay pride celebration, encouraging him to wear specific colors to support so-called Pride Month. Cunningham wore T-shirts with Bible verses instead. One cited Proverbs 16:18. Pride goes before destruction, an arrogant spirit before a fall. Another read, taking back the rainbow, Genesis 9:13, with the verse, I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. On the back, that's when he said they fired him. Cunningham filed a religious discrimination lawsuit in federal court last year, reached a settlement agreement this week for an unspecified amount. We had some technical problems with Michelle Bachmann's feed. I apologize for that. So we're going to bring Chris Ann Hall back in. Chris Ann, you just heard 2 stories where employees who were Christian faced discrimination in the workplace over their religious beliefs because they would not participate in woke DEI practices with fellow employees. Now, the gentleman in Iowa won a settlement. The man in Wisconsin has filed a religious discrimination suit. Now, I thought DEI in the workplace was being dismantled by the Trump administration. What do you make of this?
Well, these strongholds are not going to go away without a fight. That's for sure. What we have to recognize, though, is that we have to stand up for what is right and what is true. The first case went to settlement because the man was discriminated against. It's called content discrimination. It is a clear and textbook version of a legal doctrine that says you cannot promote one context and discriminate against another. And I suspect that the other man's lawsuit will settle in a very similar way. They won't let these go to court because they would lose really big.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to ask you. Why won't we let this go into the courts? The Florida Attorney General spoke out against foreign students fomenting protests and violence on our college campuses. Listen to this.
I think a lot of these students come in, they're not paying for their education. I think President Trump has highlighted what people at home did not know, which is that our federal government was spending over $2 billion on the education of these foreign students. And then they fight back against our Republican form of democracy. They fight back against American ideals.
$2 billion to fund students from adversarial countries at universities that refuse to stop anti-Semitic, anti-American activities on campus. Is the president right to call for a stop to this kind of funding?
Well, I don't believe that we should be funding education in this way anyway. This education has to be something that means something to someone. It has to have value, or it will have no meaning at all. What we do have to be careful about is what I call sort of lazy speech. Protesting must be protected regardless of the speech, regardless of the focus of the speech. Free speech is the most protected thing that we should have in America, as guess what? Unpopular or popular speech needs no protection. And our Supreme Court has held that to be very, very true for a very long time.
Okay,
Violent actions are not protected, but speech must be.
Okay, to that point, Seattle Police Department arrested 23 violent Antifa thugs who attacked a Christian worship event. You're seeing it, hearing it right now. Antifa assaulted police and Christians on Saturday. Seattle Mayor Harrell issued a statement condemning the Christians. Chris Ann, can those pro-family, pro-Christian people get a fair hearing in Seattle?
Well, I mean, this is another one of those strongholds, isn't it? Where the Christians are going to have to find that boldness that comes in then in the Holy Spirit to retake territory for what is good, what is right, and what is true. I really, really commend these Christians for standing up in this place. It values most when it costs the most.
Should we be concerned that singing to Jesus in a park permitted is hate speech? Should we be concerned about that in America?
We should be concerned at the government being involved in the defining of hate speech, period. When government can define what is hate and then criminalize what is hate, then guess what? Anything that you say that disagrees with government becomes hate, and you become the criminal. That is the antithesis of every aspect of freedom of speech and liberty that America was built on.
All right, Chris Ann, thank you so much. Bring you back here in a couple of minutes. Tim?
Thank you, Greg. Now with an update from Israel, here's ILTV Steve Leibowitz.
It's day 598 of the war in Gaza. The IDF's Operation Gideon's Sword continues to move forward, conquering more territory in northern Gaza. The army now says it aims to capture 75% of Gaza during a 2-month-long offensive. The army also made clear that the offensive can be prevented if Hamas agrees to the hostage ceasefire agreement that U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is still trying to achieve. The newly established Gaza Humanitarian Foundation says it will begin delivering humanitarian aid to Gaza today. U.S. President Donald Trump said that real progress was made in the latest round of nuclear talks with Iran. Trump said that U.S. and Iranian negotiators held very good talks this past weekend in Rome. Steve Leibowitz for ILTV and Victory News.
Thank you, Steve. Now, we are following reports that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire deal today, and we continue to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and against terrorism worldwide. Fior.
Amen, Tim. Reporters at the Pentagon will now need a pass to enter some areas. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth announced new restrictions on journalists accessing the Pentagon, citing the need to protect classified and sensitive information. The rules ban credentialed reporters from most areas of the Pentagon without prior approval and escort, and require press members to sign forms acknowledging their duty to safeguard national intelligence. New press badges and stricter credentialing scrutiny are also being implemented. The Pentagon Press Association criticized the policy as a, quote, direct attack on the freedom of the press. The Trump administration move follows recent firings tied to an investigations leak. The administration has also introduced lie detector tests to curb leaks, so warning employees they could be fired for refusing them. Greg?
All right, before we go, let's talk with Victory News contributor KrisAnne Hall one more time. KrisAnne, as we pay thanks today for those who gave all so we can live free, I want you to listen to actor and fellow Christian believer Chris Pratt challenge the next generation to never forget.
Changing the hearts and minds of young people right now who have either forgotten or maybe never knew just how great our country truly is. That is the work that we all need to do. We need each other, man. We're on the same team. We're the United States of America. When we are one nation under God, we are indivisible. Let us never forget that, lest it be lost.
KrisAnne, Chris Pratt believes we need to help the next generation understand our nation needs them. Do you believe we can light the flame of patriotism in the next group that will lead this country?
Absolutely, 100%. And that has been my mission for 15 years. And in those 15 years, I have seen that come to pass. This new upcoming generation has more patriotic love for America, has more love for liberty than we have seen in generations past. And that only comes through proper education. I even posted an article on X today about remembering why Memorial Day is so important. Going back to our founders and how they sacrificed for us so we could be free today.
Absolutely. And you do that every day of the year, and you travel around and do that. And I want to thank you for doing so as well. You can learn more about KrisAnne's work by visiting KrisAnneHall.com. Follow her on X at RealKAHall. KrisAnne, thank you for joining us on this Memorial Day.
Thank you so much.
Our thanks to KrisAnne Hall and Michelle Bachmann, especially you. Thanks for joining. The World Reports the Problem. The Victory Channel brings the answer. Whatever is born of God overcomes the world, and this is the victory that's overcome the world, our faith. That's 1 John chapter 5 and verse 4. Memorial and remembering are power concepts in the Bible. God remembers his covenants with us, and he wants us to remember his faithfulness and pass that down to future generations. We leave you with a video released by the White House with the caption that reads, Memorial Day isn't about barbecues or beach days. It's about those American heroes who gave everything for our freedom. So today, stay in faith and be blessed on this very special Memorial Day.